I just want to give an example of a situation that I was involved in that was revealing to me, because we go into humanitarian work and we kind of don't know anything, because obviously we're not trained before we go, when we go for the first time. So we kind of learn the organizational methods, and we learn from those who are our bosses, right? We learn from those above us, and we learn how to do things from those people, okay? But we don't learn how to think for ourselves or how to question these things, right? So I just like to give an example of a quite early on in my humanitarian fieldwork career, let's call it a career. I was working in a camp situation, a lot of camps, in fact, and it was the first time I'd ever seen a camp, or so many camps, such big camps. They were huge, or at least they were huge to me. Maybe camps of 40, 50,000 people. And it was the first time I had seen people living in such terrible circumstances. And the saddest thing about those camps is that the people had been living there for 20 years. Yeah. So that means like whole generations were born there and had grown up there, knowing nothing else than these camps, because they were kept in these camps by force for their own good, in theory, right? For their own protection, right? And the conditions they were living in were just awful, yeah? Despite many, many years of agency and NGO intervention in these camps. I mean, they just there was child prostitution, there was alcoholism, there was just a general sense of no hope left, and you could feel it. You'd pass by people's you'd pass by the line, which was mud everywhere, tiny plastic sheeting hovels, really bad, and you'd pass, and people would be sometimes just sitting around because they had nothing to do, staring into space. No hope. So you could think, these people are just dependent on aid, right? And complain about their attitude, right? Always wanting more, always trying to trick the system or whatever, no? And this is what I'm saying now about understanding the humans, right? The human lives that are living this. We shouldn't look at these people as of course they try to get on lists of beneficiaries, wouldn't you, if you were living in those situations? Of course they sometimes exaggerate how many dependents they have, wouldn't you? Right? So these are people in this particular situation of all of these camps that are forced to live in these camps. They're not let out. They're not allowed to have a livelihood, right? They've no cash, whose children are made to prostitute from a very young age, child pregnancies. We're not even talking about teenage pregnancies. We're talking about child pregnancies. Everybody lumped together. Conflict, violence, aggression, wife beating, whatever, right? Imagine situation that has been all the problems generated by putting these people into this situation with no livelihood, no water, terrible sanitation, and nothing to do all day, right? And then what do? We come around and we kind of try to whip them into some sort of morally acceptable type of population that responds well to whatever we decide to do. And we forget that these people are human beings that have been thrown from their homes a long time ago into this terrible situation, and they don't have any hope left, right? So of course the things we try to do, hey, come on, We need you to dig all of these latrine holes in the hot sun. It's for you. Why aren't you doing it? And then we kind of don't understand why people aren't motivated to get up and dig a big hole for a latrine they don't even want. Or maybe they do want it, but it's not their biggest problem. Yeah, or maybe they're just like so traumatized and have no despair and full of despair that it's hard to motivate. If we think about the human side of this, right, and we think, okay, can you think of any day when you've like been depressed or down or not feeling well, and someone comes along and says, hey, can you go out there and dig a 10-foot hole? Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating about the size, I don't remember, or a 2-meter hole, yeah? How would you feel about that? You've barely any food, you've got 7 kids to manage, you've got a husband who maybe beats you at night, or you're a husband and you've had no food, your only thing is to drink all day because you've lost hope, you've lost your dignity as a man, you're as a provider for your family, and the last thing you want to do is dig a hole, right? So nobody was kind of understanding all of that, right? But you could see it clearly in their eyes. You could see it. They had no hope. And when you spoke to them, they could remember their homes. They were farmers, yeah, or they had livestock. They were self-sufficient. So let's try to imagine, by talking to the people, right? We could get a picture of what their lives had been before, and of course, talking to people from there, their lives before had been, they lived in their homes. They did subsistence farming. Maybe they had some surplus that they sold in the markets, and they lived until this armed group came and started attacking them and burning the villages and whatever. And they were then taken from their homes and put into the camps, right? 20 years. So they had lost their way of providing for themselves and their families, right? So imagine, yeah?